On our fourth day, we originally planned to drive all the way to Durango, but because of a scheduling conflict with the house we booked in downtown Durango, we had to find a place to stay somewhere between Trinidad and Durango. We settled on the Hot Springs Resort in Pagosa Springs, but more on that in a minute. While planning this trip, I came across Colorado.com, the official website for visitors to Colorado, which has a page dedicated to the state's 13 scenic byways. So wherever possible, we would take these scenic byways instead of the interstates. The quick route to Pagosa Springs would have taken us north on I-25 towards Walsenburg and then west on US 160. However, we chose to take Highway 12, a two-lane road that winds through the Spanish Peaks State Wildlife Area. And after spending 2 days in the plains, we finally started to feel like we were getting into Colorado. First stop was Cokedale, which is a company town founded by the American Smelting and Refining Company in 1906. The following year, the town's population ballooned to over 1,500 as the coal mine got up to speed. The mine was shut down in 1948, and by 1950, the population had dropped to just over 200 residents. Today, there are just over 120 residents, and the town is on the National Register of Historic Places as the Cokedale Historic District. Just outside of town, the remains of the historic coke ovens are visible from Highway 12. These ovens operated at very high temperatures and turned coal into coke, which is a hard coal with the impurities removed. In its heyday, these ovens made 1,500 tons of coal and 800 tons of coke per day. About 25 miles west of Cokedale, US 12 turns north and meanders up the western edge of the Spanish Peaks until it reaches La Veta and connects with Highway 160. This is where the road got a little bit twisty, which made for a fun drive. Along the way, we stopped at North Lake, where the sky, mountains, and clouds made for some amazing views and photographs. Just before we entered La Veta, we stopped to get a photo of Lucifer at the foot of a granite rock formation called the Devil's Stairsteps. Once we were westbound on Highway 160, we had no other sightseeing stops to make and just settled in for the leisurely 3-hour drive to Pagosa Springs. However, as we approached the small unincorporated town of Fort Garland, we saw signs for the Fort Garland Museum and Cultural Center and decided to stop and check it out. Fort Garland was built in June 1858, 10 years after the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo during the American expansion into the West. Today, visitors can explore the 19th century military fort by walking the parade grounds and touring 5 of the original adobe buildings. We learned about the Buffalo Soldiers of the 9th Cavalry who were stationed at the fort from 1876 to 1879, and also about Colorado's little-known role in the Civil War at the Civil War in the West exhibit, and how women and children brought a little bit of home to the soldiers stationed at this remote outpost. One of the original buildings was the enlisted man's quarters, where 2 soldiers slept head to foot in these small beds. And one of the Army regulations stated that soldiers had to bathe once a month whether they thought they needed it or not. The gentleman whose apartment we would rent in Durango suggested we stay at the Pagosa Hot Springs Resort, and it was one of the nicest stays of the trip. These hot springs were discovered hundreds of years ago by the Southern Ute Indian tribe and are known for their healing powers. The source is called the Mother Spring, a 1,000-foot deep geothermal hot spring which is in the Guinness Book of World Records as the world's deepest. The Mother Spring feeds 25 individual hot springs pools that range in temperature of 104 to 109 degrees. Needless to say, this resort was most welcome after 4 days on the road, and after a wonderful dinner, a few soaks in these hot springs, we slept very well that night. The next morning, we were on the road early because we had a train to catch. The train was the 140-year-old Durango and Silverton narrow-gauge railroad. The city of Durango, Colorado was founded by the Denver and Rio Grande Railway in 1880, and the railroad arrived on August 5, 1881. Construction on the line to Silverton began in the fall of that same year and was completed by July of 1882. The line was constructed to haul silver and gold ore from southwest Colorado's San Juan Mountains, but soon passengers realized that the views from this line were truly precious. We left Durango at 9 a.m., and for a while the line ran parallel to Highway 550, but once we crossed into the San Juan National Forest, we left the highway behind and happily lost touch with civilization. For the remainder of the trip, we had views of the Animas River. At times, we were just a few feet above the river, but at the highest point, on a curve called a high line, we were some 400 feet above the river and had panoramic views of the surrounding mountains and the valley below. Soon after we passed over the 130-foot-long iron pin-connected deck truss bridge that known as the Highline Bridge, we passed the old Tacoma power plant and finally stopped for lunch in Cascade Canyon.
Lunch in the mountains. With the water.
After lunch, we started back towards Durango, where we checked into an amazing downtown apartment we found on Verbo, toured the downtown area, had dinner, and then settled in for the night.